Hi everyone, hi Nick. I've had a request or two to show how I do my, excuse me, how I do my sewing. So I think I've got this rigged up so that you can sort of see what I'm doing here without actually having to totally rearrange my whole shop here. The light isn't great, it's cloudy today, but I think I have enough light to make a halfway decent video. So this is really very easy. I am a horrible sewer, so if I can do this, anybody can do this. My mother tried to teach me to sew when I was a little kid, and I never quite grasped the concept all that well. Great cook, horrible sewer. But even if I can do this, anybody can do this. So it's really very easy. And there's a few things that I do. First of all, I do the corner, the corner flips, and start out with a index card. And this was a 4x6 one of the bigger ones. And I cut it down to a 4-inch square, following Rita's tutorial on that. And then you have this bit left over, and this I save. This is the next card. This I save, and I use my tab punch and put a tab on the top. And sometimes I trim the corner, sometimes I don't. And I use these. These make perfect little tags for the scalloped pockets. It's a perfect size. So I save all of these for that. So I'm going to set that aside. And so then I have my 4-inch square. And what I like to do is I like to sew it all the way around. So I bought myself one of these fancy computerized sewing machines that has like 150 stitches that I use about 6 of. And put in my choice of thread. I'm working on I've got some burgundy thread in here right now. I'm working on a Christmas junk journal for a design team project for Daisy, Tsunami Rose. So that's the color thread I have in here because that's the color I'm going to need, and I'm going to use this in the journal. So I do that. So then I kind of, line it up, put it down, check and make sure the pedal is where I need it, and then I'm not going to roll backwards, and then I just go around, and I do back stitch a tiny bit, and then I just go around, all the way around. And when I get to about there, I stop, and I leave the needle down, and lift up the press-a-foot, turn it counterclockwise, 90 degrees, and put the press-a-foot down again, and go some more. Stop, leave the needle down. Some people just sew on 2 sides. If you wanted to do that, you can stop, pull it out, cut it off. I like to go all the way around, so do the same thing. I'm just going to do that twice more. And once more. Back it up a little bit, and that's it. Take it out, cut it off. So there you have it. Not terribly straight, but, and then you got all your threads in one spot here, and then I trim them off. I like to leave them a little bit long because I like that look, but you don't have to. You can trim them right down. So there's that. You can ink it if you want to. You don't have to. So then the thing you have to keep in mind is, as Rita says, when you are going to fold it, if you want the lines to go in the way that you would be writing, you would think, okay, I want it in, I want it in the lower right hand corner or the left hand corner. That's going to depend on which way you fold the card, fold it over. But so that's basically it. You know, you can put the lines on the outside, you can put the lines on the inside. You can do this with just a 4-inch square of designer paper. Do it that way. When you fold it over, you can embellish, you can stamp, whatever. But that's the sewing for that. Okay, that's one thing. The next thing would be I put the mine just went completely blank. How I put coffee dyed paper on the back of a piece of ephemera, and this is one of the pieces of ephemera from the Christmas list kit, which is actually through today still on sale for 50% off. So you might want to hop over to her Daisy shop and pick that up if you're interested. It's a gorgeous kit. It's huge and it is absolutely gorgeous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink it first, and I can do this around the camera. I am using, this is a new one, is called Ground Espresso, and it's almost the same as Walnut Stain, maybe even a little bit darker, but I like it for these really vintagey journals. So just inked it. Get that out of the way. I'm going to put this on a index card, but since the lines would be going the wrong way, I'm going to put it with the blank side up. Actually, no, change of mind. I am just going to let the lines go the wrong way, and I'm going to do it this way. So I line it up. If it's on coffee dyed paper, it would be, you know, sticking out more than likely. And I just line it up how I like it. Sometimes I use paper clips as pins. Hang on, I'm going to grab a couple paper clips. Hold on. Be right back. Ouch. Okay. Sometimes I use, I'll take some of my big paper clips. I generally don't put in the journals. I more like use them just to hold things, like when I'm sewing signatures. That's how I hold the signatures together. And I'll just take it and put them on there. I'm going to keep it where, sort of keep things where I want it to be. I just figured this out yesterday because I decided to do a fabric cover for this project, and on chipboard, and to hold all the fabric in place rather than gluing or using tape and then sewing through the glue or sewing through the tape. I just used big paper clips like pins and to hold the fabric where I wanted it. And okay, this I'm just gonna basically do the same thing as I would do for the little corn flip. So you just line her up and stitch it on. Now you don't want to sew over the paper clip, so take the paper clip off. You'll break your, if the needle hits the paper clip, it'll break the needle. And probably your machine. And to get the corners nice and sharp, you leave the needle down. Sometimes I just stop right there and cut it off, and then if I do that, that leaves this open edge, and that makes a pocket. If you want to do it that way, that leaves a pocket. Or you can just sew the back one side and leave everything else open, and that makes it kind of a little booklet. This one I'm going to go all the way around. cut it off, trim, sorry about that, trim the thread. Okay, so there's that. It's all sewed on. Get that on the back. And then you're gonna kind of trim it to size. If I can do this or not. Okay, here we go. Trim it to size. I'm just gonna use my regular scissors. If I can do this without actually really looking at it. Okay. Trim it that way. Well, that's not straight. Trim it that way. Sometimes if I have more edge, if I'm putting it on coffee dyed paper or I'm using a smaller piece, I use my rip ruler or decorative scissors to make a decorative edge all the way around. You can round the corners or punch the corners if you like. But that's that. You add a tab, punch it and add, seam binding, whatever. That's that one. So very easy. Let's see. Another thing I do is, oops. Another thing I do is destroy the camera. And lock this back down. Okay. Another thing I do is sometimes rather than gluing my side pockets, I sew them. So what I would do is I just pre-fold the paper like I would if I was going to glue it, and before I sew the signatures in. I glue after I sew them pages on, after I sew my signatures in. But if I'm going to sew on the machine, I do these first. So I've just folded the paper up, as you can see, and then I just do the same thing, line it up, and sew it on. And then just down at the other end of the pocket, do the same thing. And generally I line the edge of my paper up with the side of the presser foot. I don't measure much of anything except page sizes. I do a lot of everything kind of by eye. If it looks okay, then it's okay. Kind of a lazy crafter. And then you just take it out and trim your threads. And you can't see that all that well, but there it is. That's it. Okay, so there's that. You can embellish however you like. So there's that. Let's see. Top loading pockets, I would do the same thing, except the paper would be folded. The paper's folded up. I'm not going to actually even do this one. Paper would be folded, paper's folded up instead of to the side. And then I would just sew here and here. Same thing. The last thing I would do would be lace or trim of some sort on the edge of a page, on the edge of a pocket. And what I do when I do that is I found this really pretty trim at Walmart, believe it or not. And so what I do is, I was going to sew that on, is I just kind of eyeball it on there and sort of give a rough measurement, and I leave a little bit on the end, maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, just to make sure that I don't cut it too short. And I line it up how I like it. And I typically use contrasting thread, and I'm going to do changing stitches. I'm just going to do a straight stitch on this one. And I'm going to use, you can use contrasting thread or not, use white. But I'm going to use the burgundy because that's what's in the machine. And I just line it up. And this I'll hold rather than, I want it to hang off the edge of the page, rather than put the paper clips, because they're going to get caught in the lace. So just line it up and stitch it on. And back up a tiny bit. And this should kind of have to go kind of slow, so you get it reasonably straight and not miss the edge of the paper. Got it. Okay, back it up. Okay, take it out. Cut it off, and there you go. There it is, all sewn on. And then I trim the threads, trim the edge off so that it's even with the page, so that it looks nice. And just trim everything off. And the other end. So that's it. That's all you do. Simple. The other side, nope. Trim the back one. Come on. And that's all you do. That's it. So it's on that side, and then you have a line of stitching on the other side, kind of gives it some texture. And that is it. Very, very easy. And that's basically all that I do. So if you have any questions, please ask. I will be back when I finish the journal that I'm working on right now. And I will see you again soon. Bye.